Welcome to the Comedy Here Often podcast. I'm your host, Kevvy. This week on the show, Sean McDonnell and Darcy Collins.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's only the fact that he pulls it off is the most exciting thing to me.
Well, it's interesting.
Are we on right now?
Yeah, we're on.
Oh, boy.
This wouldn't be a real podcast if someone didn't ask, are we recording?
Yeah. I don't know. We did an intro.
So now I know it's a real podcast.
I'm so used to doing like these like preschool ones where people are just like, and go. And then you just have to like,
I want to see a preschool podcast.
Yeah.
Isn't that what you teach?
Oh, my friend. I teach special needs podcasts. Very different.
Okay.
That'd be a pretty good one too.
I'm going to cut that one right there before I lose my job.
Yeah, exactly. I always wonder that because I had John Cullen on here, and I was like, what can we say that will make you lose your substitute teaching job? Yeah. And Stefan Heck was like, well, he could say this. He did say this one time. He's just trying to ruin his life.
Totally.
Those two hate each other, and I love it.
Great dynamic.
Have you ever gotten in trouble for anything you've done in stand-up from the school you work at?
No, nothing.
Wow.
Absolutely nothing. I've had one, I had that one joke from like a while ago about a kid that I taught in daycare or whatever, and then one of my supervisors made a very snide comment about it.
Okay.
And it was just kind of in passing of being like, you used his real name. And I was just like, okay, like, all right, sorry.
Whoa.
But no, it's never been too serious.
That's good.
Yeah, it's always been. They haven't seen the bad stuff though.
Wait till your album comes out.
When my album comes out, I am going on unemployment so quickly.
Hey, what's the exact date that album comes out?
It's I don't think that's been announced yet, right?
I know sometime in November.
Let's try to help.
Well, you're more organized than us.
Yeah.
So quit rubbing it in, Darcy.
Gonna do a quit
I
sting.
mean, you were late for this podcast.
Every time.
I hear you have a real problem with the bus.
Yeah. Well, on the way here, it was like there was a delay, and then it was like 20 minutes late, and I was like, sick, I'm gonna be late for this podcast. And then another bus showed up, and I was like, okay, good. Like they've sent an emergency bus
Just for you, I heard.
just for me. I'm the king of the bus. Very much,
King of the Bus is a great title.
dude. Yeah. King of the bus. And then we get on there, and it's just this like terrified like newbie, like just this like intern of bus drivers. And ding. And I was like, it's gonna take 1,000 years. And he's like making small talk with everybody, like he still cares. Like
And
he's
then
like,
the things come off, and you're like, God damn it! Why do the things still come off?
yeah, and they got to go out with like an old timey hook and like.
Yeah, it's true. It's like a lantern lighter when he goes up there.
It's the hook the Sandman from the Apollo has to drag people off stage.
Like, we in this weird Victorian era fishing town where everything's like jerry-rigged with electricity and all of our buses shut down.
Why that? Is it the not get electrocuted hook?
Yeah.
Why that hook?
Yeah. Why? No, the more pressing question, why are all of our buses hooked up to a weird power grid that like sparks and cackles and stuff? And then it just like, they like take a corner too fast and the whole bus is done. It's like...
It's probably the same corner every time. Like,
Yeah.
that's probably what makes bus drivers slowly become way less patient.
Yeah.
It's like, Abbott's coming. Great.
Yeah. Here comes the Granville Broadway turn. Killed many a man.
Also, we don't have Uber, so we just have an embarrassing transportation situation in the city.
Bad. Uber's coming.
It is?
Is it?
Yeah, cab drivers are up in arms about it. It's slowly making its way here. It's causing quite a stir.
Jesus, everywhere has it but us.
I'm pro anti Uber. Does that make sense? Is that
You're just anti-Uber.
no? I'm pro hating Uber, but when it gets here, I'm all in.
Okay.
You know, it's cheap.
I think it's easier to live life as a sellout that way.
Yeah,
I'm going to do that.
yeah. I'm
like-
pro selling out.
Like Jeffrey Joseph, he's a comedian in this city. Do you know him? He's from New York. And he...
Oh, yes, I do. Yeah. Very funny.
We were watching the Raptors finals games, and he's like, yeah, I'm fully a Raptors supporter now. Like, I just sold out the Knicks. I'm into the Raptors now.
Yeah.
And I was like, what about next year? He's like, we'll see.
Yeah. The bandwagon is
man.
good.
I like that.
I don't think anyone's hopping on the Knicks anytime soon. Holy shit. They just
know.
keep getting worse.
They don't even have Rappaport anymore.
They've lost everyone. No, they got, was it RJ Barrett? They got that new guy.
Oh, really?
I think so, yeah. I might be messing his name up. They got a new draft pick that
Oh, man.
could be the saving grace from Canada.
I
Is he
don't...
Canadian?
Yeah.
I think sports talk. I think some teams are cursed. Like that. Thank you.
Sports talk.
I thought that was some kind of baseball bad juju thing they did in the bottom of the ninth or something. I don't know.
You turn your head sideways, pack a fat lip. You're like, keep going, Kevvy.
He looks like Popeye. But there's certain thing like the Knicks have been a team since the beginning of the NBA, and still they haven't had a great team almost ever. Definitely not in my lifetime. Why not? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
I honestly, in speaking of bandwagons, I didn't give a shit about baseball until the Chicago Bears had that
Oh yeah.
What, is it the Bears? No, is it the Bears? Who
Cubs.
is it? It's the Cubs. That's the
Man,
one.
you still don't like him, I guess.
I don't. My dad loves it. I just watched that whole season and was like, cool. And then and I saw people break down crying, this is all I've ever wanted. And I was like,
you know what's great
Nice.
is if you ever want to get someone a little bit into sports who's just totally against it, there's two ways. One is 30 for 30s. There's some great ones.
Yeah.
But the best one is sports bloopers, because who doesn't like seeing a fly ball go off Jose Canseco's head and then out of bounds? So embarrassing. You know what I mean?
yeah.
If you're dating someone and they don't like sports, that's like a good entryway to
great.
to maybe, because you like that, you know?
Yeah, I think live sports is probably the best way to get someone into it.
Yeah.
though. Yeah, I don't follow baseball that much, but I went to a Yankees game and I was like, this is the best ever. I love
I'm eating
this.
French fries. I got
Oh,
a
yeah.
beer. I don't know what happened in the game. When I went to baseball games, because I don't really know much about baseball either, but I love going to the games with friends.
Yeah,
By yourself,
yeah.
I think it would be boring.
No,
Yeah.
oh man.
But it quickly occurred to me that the point of going to a baseball game is not watching baseball. It's drinking, eating garlic fries, and then on your phone, and then sometimes it's a fly ball in your section.
Yeah.
And that's the best part, I guess.
And then all of a sudden, the whole section, you're all homies. You're all like, yeah, it's us.
You just found a group of drinking buddies. That's
Yeah,
really
it's
what it
great.
is. Yeah.
Speaking of live sporting events, guys, I just went to the P&E for the first time in my life.
See
What?
Wonder Dogs?
Jousting. You saw
I
jousting,
saw
didn't
jousting.
Jousting?
Yeah, they have live jousting.
you? Dude, it's awesome.
Like it
Medieval
really-
times?
yeah,
But
and
the-
holy.
So their whole thing, the guys that do it are ex-MMA fighters, and their whole thing is this ain't medieval times.
Holy
so they,
shit, that's
They-
amazing.
It was really cool.
I was
Yeah.
not expecting how hard they would murk each other in that.
Yeah.
It was insanity.
Yeah.
That was fucking brutal.
Wow.
Jousts were breaking. It was crazy.
Yeah, the lances are special, treated lances. They're these ain't medieval times lances. And then
That's their catchphrase
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
time.
you could tell that they're so sick of people being just like medieval times.
Yeah.
And they're no. And
I remember watching it last year and how angry one of the guys got when he lost 2 times in a row. And
Yeah.
his lance broke or cracked slightly, and then he came around to do the loop and he just threw it down. He's like, "Get me another!" And then went back in.
Really?
Yeah.
This year, I think they had last year. They talked about how last year was a banger. Also, the guy they had an MC who was pretty much just like a club comic doing 5 minutes, but he was on a horse. So he's doing a tight 5, and he did a joke that got a groan, and he was like, "I got more for you."
Didn't even affect him.
No,
He's used to it.
He was my hero. I was he's doing everything I know how to do, but also on a horse.
Wow. You could do that.
Yeah.
I think I could.
Maybe start with a
Super Dogs.
Pony.
dog or something.
Super
Start with
Dogs,
a super
move your
dog.
way
Yeah,
up.
yeah. Yeah, I'm impressed by that kind of stuff too, though, dude. One of my first jobs was at the P&E, and you know what I did on my breaks. I went and watched Super Dogs. Fucking adorable.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that job. That was my first job ever, and it was awful. It was totally
What'd you do?
unfair. I worked in this area called the Kid Zone, and
Oh,
basically
Jesus.
every day some kid would pee on something, right? And then also your ride stamp didn't count there, so that was a great thing to tell people, angry parents all day that are hot with screaming children.
Yeah.
And then the third thing is that me and my 2 friends that we're all in 8th grade, I got them hired, and we worked in this thing where you'd wear this harness and we'd hook bungee cords to you and bounce you, and everybody got hurt every time. Whiplash, they'd bounce too hard and then end up in these cables up here sometimes.
Yeah.
Jesus.
They'd try to do a flip and just scrape their face on the grass. It was great. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And you know how much stand-up comedy I go to. This is still top 5. The last day of the P&E was great. One thing that happened, there was a joust. It goes along with what you're talking about. But it was a joust where there's the 2 it's like American Gladiators, where there's the 2 platforms and then the inflatable thing, and then you joust your friend or whoever, and then first person to knock the other person off wins. These brothers went up, and we had to be like, no hitting in the face. And they're like, yeah. First thing that happens, guy knocks his brother unconscious to the point where he didn't brace himself.
Holy
Right on the ground. Ambulance came. That was the end of that day.
Wow.
So anyway, the very last day, I'm deflating the inflatable thing you fall on if you fall off the towers. It's kept its shape, but it has no air in it, and underneath it is cement. And I see this kid coming like, yeah, and I'm like, should I tell him or should I just see what happens? Wham! I just left. I was 13.
God
You gotta enjoy yourself somehow.
Did he just get back up and he was like, I'll feel that in a few years?
He had a nosebleed. I did that. Yeah. I was a bad employee.
That sounds great, though.
Well, that's a segment on the show I like to do is, what is your worst day job?
Oh.
Do you have a story? Like, I always sort of like preemptively tell this one, which is that I used to work at a discount movie theater and there's a dead body in the dumpster once. So you're not going to get probably worse than that. No. But is there anything on par? Just people being rude or mean to you? Like, have you ever worked retail, Darcy?
I've never worked retail. I've done pretty much everything else.
Okay.
Like, I've done kitchens. I've done bartending.
Kitchens, there's got to be something. You
many.
Cut off your friend's thumb by accident or on purpose. I don't know.
Like, kitchens are kind of... Like, I was right in that middle ground because I don't care about it. So, like, somebody would be like the head chef would be super like, you don't know anything about food. And I was like, yeah,
you're right.
You are 100% right. Like, you don't seem to be passionate about these fucking burgers. And I was like, no, this is terrible food and it's for bad people. And I don't care about this. Bartending was probably the roughest. I bartended when I was in my early 20s.
Really?
There was one time specifically where like we kind of had like rough and rowdy people would come in, but for the most part they were pretty chill.
Yeah.
One time I remember because we were in a hotel where the bar was, and the hotel staff was like, just so you know, there's like a guy up in like room like 425 or whatever, and he's like smashing beer bottles against the wall, and he's like beating the shit out of his girlfriend, and the cops had to come and like. But, like, for some reason, they were like, so we let him stay. And it was like, so I was like,
customer's
all right.
always right.
Yeah, like, it was like, so the cops came and took his girlfriend away. They're like, yeah, they took her away to keep her safe from the man in the room we let stay. It was like,
Jesus.
So there was, like, broken glass and stuff. And then I was closing up, and it was just me and one other server who was, like, 5'6", but just one of those girls who's just tough as nails. Like, she just, guys would, hey, sweetie, sit on my lap. She'd be like, ha, got your dick off. And just like, she's just one of those chicks. So I was like, so I was like, my whole plan was like, if anything goes wrong, I'm hiding behind her. As I'm closing up. And then kind of towards the end of the night, it was kind of like a slow night. This guy walks in, and like right away, I was like, oh, that's him. Like,
oh, really?
And he was about 6'5". Oh, no. Huge, like steroids, massive. You could tell he was a fighter. His face was all punched up. He looked like kind of an MMA guy. Cauliflower ear. Yeah, just like huge, like to the point where you're like, evolution only got you so far. Like where his neck was, and then he had this eye that was just kind of floating around all over the place. So I was like,
fishbowl eye.
Yeah,
term.
Fishbowl eye.
Cauliflower ear, fishbowl eye.
Yeah, mother tongue. I don't know what that means.
Mother tongue.
Mother tongue. He's like, mama. he looked Russian, but he wasn't. Like, if I can describe him physically.
Okay.
And then it was one of those things, too. The first thing that I always remember this story, do you remember the movie, what the fuck was it called? It was the one with Paul Walker, and it was a Michael Crichton novel. Timeline.
Holy.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. So there was so for those time heads out there, Gerard Butler was in the film. Great movie. Wow. And there was a whole thing where if you go back in time too many times, your brain like gets cut in half and you go crazy and you get like scarred and you just like you turn into like a dark version of yourself. It's the villain of the book and movie.
Okay.
Great plot. This guy looked like he'd been gone back in time like 2,000 times. Like he was his eyes were all weird. Anyway, he sat down and immediately was like, where can I find some company? And I was like,
Oh.
I was like 19, like I had no idea what I was doing, and he was like, me and my lady are fighting, and I was like, that's not what I heard. Like, you made it sound like you and her are having an even sparring match.
Yeah.
And then he's like, me and the lady are fighting. And he's like leaning over the bar. Like I am back against the wall.
Yeah.
And he's still leaning over and he's in my face. He's that big.
Holy.
And then, he was like, we're going to, find some good company. And I was like, Rock Bay, which was the close area where that was the only thing that came to my head, which was just where the ladies of the night frequented.
Okay.
It was where like truckers go and stuff.
Right.
And he's like, did you just tell me to go to Rock Bay? And I was like,
It
I'm gonna
offended
die.
him?
Yeah, he got really mad.
I am looking for a prostitute, sir. And you suggest me those prostitutes?
And I was like, and then I was like, I'm not a pimp. Like, I was so scared. And then he just gets angry and he was like, all right, give me 4 shots. And I was like, you're not legally allowed to sell that much alcohol to one man.
Oh my God.
And he was like, give me 4 shots. And like, I'm going to give you $20 and you keep giving me shots. Actually. So I'm just pouring him. And he was ordering like Kahlua too. Like weird shots.
Ew, dude. That's too many Kahluas.
Yeah. But it was like, give me a Kahlua and give me that espresso vodka. Like, do you want it over ice? No. And I was like, okay.
Give me one of those umbrella things.
Yeah.
Those are cool.
Put a pickle in it. Just these horrible drinks. And he's just doing them one after the other. And I was just sitting there just watching his eyes slowly focus. And I was like, oh no. Like he's starting to
It
like...
just ends up on you.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
oh
just swimming around and it gets drunker and drunker. I just become the focus of his
Narrowing in on a target.
narrowing in. And I'm just sitting there, and I was wearing a shirt with a big target on it, and I was like, oh, this is what Tupac wore. And then, so as he just gets angry and he just keeps being like, where do I find a woman of the night? I was like, I don't know.
Why me?
Yeah, I was so scared. And then the server came over and just like immediately, like, you get out of here. And
Wow.
just like spitfired him out. And I was like, I'm, 6'1", hiding behind her, like,
Yeah.
get him. And like... But that was the moment
Holy.
where, like, if that dude wanted, he could have leapt across the bar and murdered me in a night. And then, I think he got arrested like the next day for like assaulting hotel staff. But like, yeah,
Jesus.
because that was the most scared I was ever at that job.
Oh
So then,
my God.
it's not necessarily funny, but like,
No, it's amazing. A fishbowl eye? I'm never going to
fishbowl
forget
eye.
that.
Neither did I.
Sean,
Jesus Christ, man.
so what happened at your school that's similar to fishbowl eye?
No story similar to that, really.
Wasn't that intense?
I think the craziest job I ever worked. I hated working in a kitchen. That was probably the
you
job
did
I
as well?
Yeah, I was like 17. That's probably the job I disliked
Like
the
Were you a
most.
chef?
I was a dish boy, and then I worked my way up to like bottom line.
Okay.
Hell yeah,
That's why you
dude.
guys are so close, man.
I did that. I think the craziest one though was when I was 14. I got my first job, and I was working as I would set up tents for festivals.
Yeah, okay.
So those giant tents that you would see at like music
Cirque du
festivals or
Soleil and
anything.
stuff?
Not that quite
It's a very
size.
specific tent.
You know, I hopped on a train and traveled with a pack of elephants as I set up for the circus.
They taught you everything that you know, I heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just me and my squirrel Charlie.
Just read out the whole plot line for Water for Elephants. I'm like, there it was, the day.
There I was, Robert Pattinson
Sin-
himself.
As it was, 14 but 22. No, I did that, and it was just kind of like a real rowdy group. Like, it was almost all, he paid in cash, and you were 14, and you were supposed to keep track of your own hours, and he was like a grown man, but he would also constantly try and shortchange you. So every paycheck, I'd be like, Dave, you owe me $230, and he'd be like, what? Hold on now. And I'd have to like bring up and be like, here's the evidence. I took photos of the day I was working, and he's like, oh, okay, yeah, here you go.
Oh, okay.
but
way I can get away with this? All right.
Yeah. He would constantly hire jailbirds. This is a secondhand story, but this was
You're a good
right
person
before.
for mentioning that before you tell the story. I would have just
You're
said
also
it.
a good person for using the term jailbirds.
Never then.
This guy hired a lot of ex-cons. This guy hired some jailbirds. Like, what romantic life you lead.
Just frequent flyers, you know? They're in and out, in and out.
Sorry.
I think this one was probably the wildest. My friend was working that day, and this is the guy who got me the job. And also the interesting thing about it was my friend who got me the job was native, and the man man who ran its daughter was half native as well, so he primarily like would hire a largely native group. So I was like the one white dude. So I'd be like, "Hey fellas," and they'd be like, "You're not one of us." And I'd be like, "Okay."
I'm used to it.
But there were these two guys he brought on as a favor. So one of Dave, the guy who owned its friends, was like, "Can you hire my son and his buddy? You know, they're kind of down on their luck. They're looking for work right now."
Yep.
And he hired them for a week, and he would give personalized checks too. He didn't have cash. He would give personalized checks. So these guys cashed these checks, and then they rolled up to do the street festival in Kitsilano.
Yeah.
And the police had figured out and followed the money and activity in their bank account and figured out that they were working for Dave, and they showed up at the spot and arrested the entire crew, everyone in handcuffs on their stomachs, figured it out.
Whoa.
And these guys were wanted for I think it was armed robbery
Wow.
of like 2 different places, and they're like, "We finally got him, boys." And then it was my friend just in handcuffs like, "Dave, help." But
The cops come up like, "These jailbirds have flown the coop for the last time."
it was me. I was the undercover detective.
The one white guy.
The 14-year-old, I cracked the case. That I think probably the funniest moment was, though, there was one guy who just loved talking to prison about prison and prison life to us, and would constantly hint at it. I think he got a kick of it because it was like me and my friends, and we were 14.
Yeah.
And he would just be like, "Yeah, you know, they'd call this dog pooching in the joint. You boys know what that means." And we would just be like,
They call it dog pooch.
and we'd be like, "No, we don't know what that means." He's like, "Well, maybe one day you'll find out." And just like would put in all these weird like jargon for prison. And we'd just be like, "All right, man."
He
And then
twirled his mustache and he's like, "Swum zizzle and this zazzer."
This is right. And this
lift
guy's
his eye patch up when shit got serious.
Yeah.
Boys want to play.
this guy
No.
starts grabbing my gazongers, right? That's what we call knees.
But there was just one day, this guy named Austin just turned to him after he had given some weird like coded story, and Austin finally turned to him and just goes, "So, have you been in prison, man?" And the guy just like broke so quickly and just so excited. He was like, "Fuck yeah, I've been in prison!" And just got so excited to talk to us about it.
He's been hinting at it for years.
Yeah. So it was people just an assortment of characters, and a lot of them were actually like pretty cool people.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just some of them.
Probably humbles you being in jail, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I have to say armed robbery is a very impressive crime to be caught for, though.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, it is a cool crime.
Yeah, those are some cool jailbirds.
That's a Ryan Gosling-y kind of crime.
Yeah.
Were they
absolutely.
sexy, Sean?
Oh, they were so sexy. They had a tattoo of a dagger on their face.
Dude, the way he looked in that movie, I wanted to look like that. I was like, that is the
He did look
shit.
like a badass in that.
Vintage Metallica shirt. Oh.
And then
I
Aziz
think
Ansari
he-
saw that and was like, "I'm gonna wear that."
I was about to say, I think he got that whole thing popping off because I've seen so many people with
Yeah.
like Metallica, Pantera, Iron Maiden too.
You know, as I've been loving vintage metal shirts for years and dyeing my hair and stuff, and now all SoundCloud rappers look like me.
Yeah.
And I'm a bit of a trendsetter, guys. I feel like I'm a bit of a trendsetter. You know, Lil Yachty owes me some royalties, I think, from that Target commercial he did with Carly Rae Jepsen.
I think it's pronounced Lil Yachty.
Yil Yachty. Yil.
Yil Yachty.
When he goes to prison, they'll call him Lil Poochie. We'll have to find out what that means later.
Just a bunch of Norse people. This Yale bird's going to prison.
Yale bird.
This Yale bird will fly the coop.
That's what I call people from Yale
Bjorn,
Town.
we have fresh meat, Bjorn.
Fresh meat for the sausage.
Oh man, if you guys were gonna go to jail, what crime do you think you'd want to commit to go to jail? You think?
Oh man, con manning, like
Oh, yeah,
grifting.
Just like
So hard.
tricking old women out of their retirement funds.
That's kind of nefarious. What about like staging a music festival with Ja Rule and then just it all falls apart and you just bail?
That's pretty good.
That's
Badass.
pretty good. Maybe the best grift of all time.
Pretty badass.
Pretty cool.
Yeah,
if
yeah,
I was
yeah.
gonna go to
If
jail
he
for
goes
that.
to prison, he's gonna have like massive street cred when he rolls up in there.
Yeah.
He's
gonna
like,
have-
he's buddies with Ja Rules, baby. He walks in with
No,
the
you're
jump.
not doing the right one. He's
buddies
buddies with
baby.
he's buddies with Ja Rule. Yeah. They just do weird rickety things.
They're on a train track, just pumping it.
Keep churning this butter.
I love how old-timey this podcast has become. I'm going to carry it into the next episode, whoever that's with.
Yeah.
What about you, Sean? If you're going to go to jail, what would you like it to be
I think
for?
I'd bring it back. Armed robbery.
That's so cool.
Armed robbery is so
You
cool.
guys don't think grifting's cool?
I'd love it if you got arrested for that.
Oh, if they wrongfully brought 14-year-old me in, just be like, no, please, I just wanted summer money. I turn into the old man as well. And just, no, please.
Please, I'll suck anything you want me. I'll suck your gazongas. Those are knees in prison.
Great callback.
That is great.
Grifting.
Grifting.
I would love to see you and me in prison trying to survive with no idea, and us just being like, hello, fellas.
Apparently, when my grandfather joined the Navy in World War II, the first thing he did was found the biggest farm boy in his, like, I don't know, regiment or something, and then just started paying him to protect him.
I thought you were going to say kick his ass.
No, God,
Yeah.
no. He started giving him money, and they opened a gambling circuit.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So he used that money
And
in
then
a
if anybody,
constructive way.
yeah, if anybody was like, listen up here, Darcy Collins, great senior, and then he was like, go get him, Otis, and Otis was like, who said no?
And that was the plot of Mice and Men.
Yeah.
What do you guys think is your least favorite article of clothing that you see on the streets? Let me start off. Just so you know, I'll set the tone.
Okay.
I don't like when gentlemen have bedazzled back pockets of their jeans. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So now you can be as judgmental as me, and you won't sound as bad because I already sounded judgmental.
But I mean, like, how, like, rhinestones have never worked. But
Yeah.
people keep trying.
Yeah. That's a good point.
They've never worked. It's never been pulled off.
It feels like some people can do it on stage, like Celine Dion can wear a rhinestoney dress, and that's elegant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then at that point, the whole garment is just rhinestone.
Yeah.
So that, yeah, I guess the only way to pull it off is to just pure rhinestone.
Okay.
Maybe Cher. I feel like Cher could pull off the
She's had a
bedazzled
run.
back pocket.
Oh.
I think
Of all
after you
people?
sell like 1 million albums, you can
Yeah.
wear whatever you want.
Am I allowed to do that?
Of course, anything you want, Darcy.
I don't know if you're going to get sued by Cher's back pocket.
Wouldn't be the first time. But I feel like Tommy Lee probably had rhinestone back pockets, and I still didn't like
Yes.
it.
Yeah, you're right.
You know?
Of all people, if he couldn't pull them off.
And I like Tommy Lee.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, he's so funny, and I liked that show where he went back to school, Billy Madison style. That was
remember
good.
that one. You know what? I like Kid Rock. I think this means we're enemies.
Oh no. Yeah, I remember I had an ex-girlfriend, and we had an argument about who's cooler between Kid Rock and Fred Durst, and I was like, Fred Durst is obviously cooler, and she's like, no. And we had a for real argument about it.
That's a tough one. That really is a tough one. I think Fred Durst did more when he was in the limelight.
Love
But
this.
Kid Rock is made like he's still charging just no money. If you're a Kid Rock fan, guess what? You're in. Like he's not elitist. He's letting everyone in.
Yeah.
You know,
Did
his
a song
tickets-
with Sheryl Crow.
Yeah.
Has that going for him.
He is American badass.
Yeah.
He's not the American badass. He's
He's-
not a American badass. He just is.
What a great credit. When he needs a day job. Why am I saying that? He doesn't need a day job.
he
Why would I
does.
be mean to Kid Rock?
When he works at a Church's Chicken.
He probably does own one. I remember my band toured China, and I remember somehow I found out right before we went there that Flavor Flav had funded a chain of fried chicken restaurants. Ooh. It sounds like what I'm saying is some racist joke. It's the truth. And we really wanted to find them, but they already gone out of business by then. But we did find Obama fried chicken. And then while we were there, the chain switched over to be called UFO fried chicken, but it still had a picture of Barack Obama on the artwork. But he was in a UFO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're to take your taste buds to another planet.
You know what else is great about over there, just on the bootlegging front? Is there fake Apple stores that look like a real Apple store, and it's all bootleg Apple stuff in
Yeah,
it.
and they
That's
get so
great.
many people with it. too.
Yeah.
I went to the Shenzhen market.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and it was weird seeing like a few like white Americans just be like, "Hey, look, they have an Apple store," and it's right next to just fake Sony, fake
Yeah.
everything. There's a
Yeah.
man selling chips like in a bin, just being like, "Take as many as you want,
Wow.
a handful for $10," and they're like, "I'm sure this iPhone's real," and you're like, "You idiots! How does this get you?"
But if it's something technology based, it's not going to work for very long.
Yeah.
So that's not good. But if you're buying knockoff Louis Vuitton or something, who
Oh,
cares?
my friend, these shoes, knock off. I got them in China.
Really?
Yeah, knockoff market.
At the Beijing market where you just barter with an old woman aggressively until
No, at the Shenzhen fake district. It's like a whole building. It's like, think of in Judge Dredd when he goes inside of the
great reference.
yeah, and when he goes inside of that building, he has to work his way up to the top of.
That's not Judge Dredd.
Sorry,
That's
Dredd.
Dredd. Yeah.
My bad.
the art house classic.
Yeah, dude,
I
Rob
apologize.
Schneider wasn't even in that one.
he
It's
was,
like
but it was a
that.
cameo.
Oh yeah,
Just fake everything.
slipping in my old age. Yeah, in Beijing they have the same thing.
Oh, yeah?
And there's no price on anything, and you just go in there and then you fight with an old lady about the price.
Like physically.
They
you
scream.
wrestle
Well,
her.
she did slap me because there's a pair of Air Jordan 1s. And she's like, $400. And I was like, $30. And she slapped me in the chest and said, "You're very good," and gave them to me for $50. So it's worth it.
That's good. Okay. I want to go back to the most hated article of clothing.
Okay.
Sean is a very judgmental, angry man, but he
I love
hides
it.
He hides it behind.
No,
your
I love
eyes.
that
Yeah.
in people.
Without a doubt, I knew mine immediately.
And you've just been sitting on it.
Without a doubt, mine is the man who wears a fanny pack like it's a purse around the chest. You know,
Sorry,
these things.
Oladada.
Yeah,
Oh,
you're taking
I've
a
called.
lot of shots.
Oh, I've called him on it many a times. Of just
Wow.
being like, that looks very stupid.
Wow.
I think that's gonna be like the equivalent of looking back into our generation, being like, I can't believe we used to do that.
You know what? I saw that and I was like, he can climb a mountain and be an action star and then get to the top and pull out like a snack.
Oh, like a natured valley.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, that's what Nathan Drake would do with it.
Okay.
If he had one.
See, I was picturing Cliffhanger like Stallone.
Very similar.
Okay. As long as John, wait, what's his name from Third Rock from the Sun? He's the bad guy in Cliffhanger.
Oh yeah.
Lithgow.
John Lithgow.
As long as he's dead.
Also a children's book author.
I know.
Yeah.
What a diverse gentleman.
Yeah. It was great.
Yours?
I don't know. I hate everything. I'm like,
Yeah.
honestly, I think we should all wear gray jumpsuits like Slipknot. Like, I just
Great reference.
let your personality shine, man. You know,
Yeah.
I see so many people hiding behind so much fashion, and then you talk to them, and you're like, wow, you looked so interesting, but you are not. You know?
Can't believe you'd slam Billie Eilish like that. He'll say anything, man. He's fearless, this guy.
Yeah, I got up close and personal with Billie Eilish. I was like, you don't got a lot going on, Bill.
You just
You
bullied
know-
a 17-year-old girl.
No, her real name's William, so.
William Eyelash. That's the name of this episode.
Love it.
Yeah, I'm pretty judgmental about fashion. I think I'd get annoyed when it's like, okay, you just read a fashion magazine and now you're just doing that. It's
Yeah.
not that you have fashion sense.
You just have a good.
Yeah, I don't know. I
What
am
if-
wearing a thinner T-shirt right now.
But like. So we talked about how like Metallica shirts were the early thing
Yeah.
that everyone's appropriate. That's the future.
Thank you.
Horror is coming back around so aggressively that all of a sudden everyone's gonna be like, no, I think Stephen King's Thinner is an underrated classic, and you're gonna be like, no, it's not. Stephen King doesn't think it is.
Stephen King, I watched this interview with him, and it was an interview about Maximum Overdrive, the movie he insisted on directing. And the first person you see in the movie, Stephen King, and he's complaining about an ATM. I think he calls it a piece of shit or something, which
Yeah.
is foreshadowing for what ends up happening in the rest of the movie. But the interview with him, he was basically apologizing for it in the same way everyone apologized for Batman and Robin at some point, including
Yeah.
Joel Schumacher.
Yeah.
But Stephen King was like, it was kind of an apology. He's like, yeah, I was on a lot of cocaine. So it was kind of not an apology. It was kind of like, what would you have done?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like how the behind the scenes of Maximum Overdrive, we watch it and it's a terrible movie, but like behind the scenes of that movie was famed horror author Stephen King just just like going full just doing lines
Yeah.
and being like, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
Everyone's like,
This shit is easy.
this is so scary. No, Steve.
You know what I love? I love several things about Stephen King. I love also that he called himself the Big Mac and fries of literature, which isn't true because he wrote The Green Mile. He wrote Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
He's written so many cool, amazing screenplays and
Yeah.
books, but he also, made Creepshow, which I love.
Yeah, I love
So
Creepshow.
you can do both. That's
Yeah.
fine. I also love a few years ago he got hit by a truck and it detached his retina, so he's blind in one eye. He bought the truck from the owner, didn't blame the owner, blamed the truck, and had it destroyed and watched.
And he called that Destruction Maximum Overdrive.
It's his new screenplay. He just started doing cocaine again, so he can do a good
I
job
would
with
love if he just flipped and just started doing coke, and he's like, "Trump's my man." And just like everyone's like, "Whoa, Steven."
You can go down a Reddit wormhole of him just in the audience at Rancid concerts.
Really?
Apparently, Rancid's like his favorite band, and you can just go through like a stream, and it'll just be him, hood up, hat on, glasses, and it'll be just playing Roots of Radical, and he's in the audience like,
guy.
I love this
Yeah.
band.
That's amazing. I love when people have weird bands they love. Like Dennis Rodman loves Pearl Jam.
Yeah,
Really? All right.
but also
expecting
like,
that.
yeah, you kind of do when it with
No, you
with
don't.
the rod,
What are you talking about?
with the Rod
Dennis
Man.
Rodman?
The Rod Man.
I love the Rod Man.
Expect the unexpected when it comes to him. Going back to Big Trucks.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Was it the song by Coal Chamber, "Big Trucks"?
Yeah, big
That-
truck.
That movie was about or that song was about Maximum Overdrive.
Are you joking right
Yeah,
now?
I'm a big Devil Driver fan.
I love it.
Yeah.
I saw
Big Trucks. It's like the whole.
that song came after Loco. I love that. One of my first concerts was when I was a teenager. The Croatian Cultural Center. It was Slipknot opening for Coal Chamber.
Wow.
And they didn't have an album yet.
Yeah.
And I remember I was in the front row. I used to have to be at the front row for all the concerts, so I was like this. And the clown jumped off the stage, and I touched his head, and security thought I was trying to steal his mask, so they punched me in the chest.
Whoa.
Damn.
It's a good story.
That's a great story.
That is a great story, yeah.
And I like
Yeah.
how you called him the clown, not clown, because you were that young. You're like, oh, it's the clown.
The clown. There's the spiky head. There's the zipper mouth.
There's the man who yells, and there's the clown.
Yeah. There's this article from Metal Hammer, which is it's Kerrang, which is a British metal magazine, and they're so sarcastic in it all the time, and they're talking about my band Fake Shark still references this. It was an article on Mudvayne, and they're talking about the different members of Mudvayne, and they're like, well, of course there's Spiky Head, and let's not forget good old Devil Man, and that guy who has Devil Man.
Devil Man.
I love that. Yeah.
They had a hard time. Like they conformed aggressively. Remember that? Like they were.
I can't believe you're saying this about Mudvayne now.
No,
You'll say anything.
Don't get me wrong. That first album was killer.
Yeah.
But like they had that like middle 2000s when everyone started removing the masks.
Yeah.
And they were going by like Scrug and like Biff and like they all had stage names. And then their new album comes out and it's all them with like cowboy hats on and sunglasses. And they're like, hey, it's your pal Scrug. Everyone's like, just because of the mud.
Don't call me Scrug anymore. Call me Chad, because it's my name.
Actually, my name is Roderick. Thanks.
It's not a very metal name. I like that, though, because new metal has now had enough distance where people can admit they liked it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I've never understood that, though, because when I was a teenager, I liked new metal, and I hated pop punk, and pop punk fans would be so pretentious about it. It's like, hey, your music sucks too, okay?
Yeah.
Let's just admit it.
Yeah.
You can't be all into Newfound Glory and then make fun of Korn.
Yeah. And then, like, you know, to everyone else, it all looks the same.
Yeah, I know.
So it was such a silly little division.
Yeah, I know.
And then now, arguably, I'm having more fun listening to pop punk than I am to new metal.
Are you?
Oh, I just got into the Menzingers, and I'm like, this is phenomenal. Can't get
Man,
enough of
I
this.
never did it. And it's funny because my first
I mean, I wouldn't call them they're more punk rock, but still.
concert ever was a Warped Tour. And it's
Ooh.
funny because Cypress Hill was supposed to be on it, but
Yeah.
they bailed. And so an unknown Eminem replaced Cypress Hill
Wow.
and
Dang.
got booed off. And they're handing out drinks with lemon slices in them.
Yeah.
And he got hit with lemons for the whole show until he left. And no one even knew who he was.
Yeah.
And Pennywise was going on after him, and they were like, Pennywise, and he was just like trying to reason with a crowd.
Oh, wow.
To the point that he wouldn't play Vancouver for like a long time after that. He's
Yeah.
like, fuck that
Wow,
place.
shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Sean, what was your first concert?
First concert was Rise Against.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I remember that. That was probably when I was 12.
Yeah.
Yeah. That one was a
Where?
blast. That was at Pacific Coliseum.
Wow.
And Rancid opened for them.
Stephen King was there.
And Stephen King was right beside me going,
Stephen King.
You know, Sean, a lot of people died here back in the 70s.
he kept giving me copies of Tommy Knockers. He's like, it's a lot better than people give it credit for. And I was like, I don't want to read this. I can't read. And he's, no, I went and saw that. And that was my first intro to Rancid, too. Like, I
Okay.
saw that and I saw them open. And I was like, these guys are fucking awesome.
I wonder if people know about them.
I'm not even kidding. And then there was more Rancid shirts in the audience than there were Rise Against.
That's so crazy they were opening.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was pretty wild. That was right after, I think the album was called Appeal to Reason came out, and then
Okay.
Rancid did Domino's Fall.
Okay.
So they had just come out around the same time. And
That's
then they
cool.
were doing it. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
What about your guys?
So mine was that Warped Tour. What about you, Darcy?
Oh, I'm from a small town, so I think it was the like heavy metal
Chilliwack?
fest.
Oh,
no,
okay.
I'm from the island.
No, I meant the
So,
band Chilliwack.
The band? No, it was a metal. It was for sure a metal. I was an angry fat kid in the woods, so I like there was like a metal festival of local bands, and I was like, yeah. And I went. And it was Messiahs in Fiction.
Wow.
There was one like Attackeria or something. I think was one which they became a taqueria.
Yeah.
I honestly, yeah, like just local bands that all the guys are like, well, now I work here, and I just can't really play guitar anymore, and they all just gave up. And then I was just there in the back, like, wow, I hope one day I could be as cool as these guys up on stage, and now I'm here to just reinforce that.
And now you came here and you ripped on Billie Eilish. So I think you
When
achieved.
did I rip on Billy? When did I rip on
I
William?
just can't
Talk
believe
about
he's-
baggy clothing, man. You're taking shots.
Yeah, dude.
Well, I don't know, man. She looks like somebody put makeup on a kid from the potato famine. So I don't know what you want me to say. If you're trying to get it,
said it.
I think Billy. Yeah, I think her music, like, I don't know. Because I'm like, what are the kids into? And I looked it up, and she's like, ooh, I got like bleeding eyes, and I was
Yeah.
like, all right, that's metal. I can get into that. And then
Yeah.
she's like, I'm a bad guy, and then that song's like, and I was like, what are we at a shitty carnival? What the fuck is this? And teens are just getting turned to it. So it's like, if this resonates with your soul's dog shit. But like, feel free.
I think there's such worse popular music than that.
I would agree.
Because there's
YouTuber diss raps.
industrial elements to it. To me, it's listenable, and her brother produced it, and so it's kind of there's like drill sounds. It's just unique to me, because I love hip hop, and I find so much popular hip hop so tame. Like Lady Gaga is way more rebellious than most rock bands now.
Yeah.
And so I'm actually happy. It was like when Lorde came out. I was like, okay, this is
I like Lord's
Lorde
awesome.
was great.
Lord's
Lord
awesome.
was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lord
Yeah.
was real cool.
She never like got bad. She just made less
Yeah.
music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I
I
thought she was great.
I liked her first album a lot too because it was once again just one person producing it, her friend.
Yeah.
And then now that she's quite big, she has like teams working on the stuff. And
Too
so
many cooks in the kitchen.
I think it's still good, but it's just kind of less cool, like interesting to me, I guess. But a lot of people would disagree with me about that.
Well, as a producer, like you probably feel like the singular vision of something a lot more.
Well, it's probably what you guys feel about stand-up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm a little easier going on comedians and their bits than a lot of other comics.
Yeah.
But my goal, because I produce comedy too, is to not have stand-up comedy taste about stand-up comedian taste about stand-up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I think that can be dangerous too if you only like this kind of thing and then you don't understand why anybody likes the things that are filling arenas.
Well,
because both have value.
Yeah.
Stand-up can get so up its own ass.
Yeah.
But at the end of
Yeah.
the day, it's written by the victors. So it's like no one's going to remember the best comic from Des Moines, Iowa. He might have been the best comic who ever lived. But, he lived in a trailer park and
Grew up
died.
on Slipknot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Grew up on Slipknot. Maybe he was a good guy, but nobody looked closer. And maybe he wanted to connect, but he was just raised in a way that you couldn't touch people emotionally. And maybe he wore a blue shirt and he was on a podcast.
No, but yeah, I think that you have to, at the end of the day, you have to watch the audience. Because if only the back of the room is laughing, congratulations, you're a terrible comic. Like you've entertained 6 of your friends
in a room of 20 people watching you eat shit.
Yeah.
But it's definitely it's like the us and them thing can ruin a lot of great comics.
Yeah.
But it's also like you got to have those little like, this is for me. Like sometimes you'll
of course
you'll see an audience that's just like, oh, ha, ha, ha. Can you believe he pointed out the differences between men and women? And then I just get that thing in the back of my brain where I'm like, I'm gonna show these people why they shouldn't come out, and then I'll just go and I'll do an insane set and scream about the 99 bus. Yeah, and if there are people in the crowd laughing, I'll know that they're ride or die. Yeah, and then anybody who's a little on the fence if they like stand up, I'm like, you're a hobbyist, get out of here.
Yeah.
I don't do that every time because that's a bad comic.
Yeah, I think it's interesting when I hear from friends who aren't stand-up comedians who went to a show and they'll bring up a name who like maybe the scene doesn't give much respect to, or people are like, oh, it's a hack or whatever, and then they're like, they were amazing. Yeah. And I was like, maybe I'm just not seeing this whole picture.
Okay.
Like, I guess you get so into it yourself that you kind of get blinders on to the big vision of it, but yeah.
You can also watch shows where somebody clearly has the best set, and then people are like, I like this person. They were wearing that shirt. And you're just like, all right, well, these people dedicated their lives to doing this, and you've diminished it to you like shirts. So like
blue shirts from Iowa.
Blue shirts. Maybe there's a white shirt on underneath, and maybe if somebody was to look inside of what's under that shirt, they would see something they really liked, and maybe it's just requires somebody to look closer. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
I think it's a great message for people to take in. Okay, I have one more question for you guys.
Yeah.
And this rarely is satisfying for me, so no pressure. Have you two ever had experiences with ghosts?
I wish I had.
Me too. I want to believe so badly.
I'm totally shut off to it.
I just don't.
Yeah,
I want it.
It's not that I don't believe necessarily, but I am totally. If there is like a sixth sense or like an ESP or something, I don't got it. Yeah. Because I've been in rooms where people are like, "Do you feel that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you guys are all really tense. I feel that vibe."
Yeah.
But I do not feel. I never feel like on the back of my neck. No. Never hear whispering. Dude. Never feel unsafe.
Yeah, I've never had really. I've had like my mom tell me experiences that I've had with ghosts, and I'm just like, okay, mom, I have like one story of that, but I've never had one personally.
What's your mom's story about you?
My mom. Oh, I kind of feel bad because it's like somewhat of a personal story, but
how
it's show business, mom. Sorry. No, it's not that personal. She had a friend who died of cancer.
That's
right
extremely
before
personal.
Whatever, man. Who passed away from cancer right before I was born, and apparently he wanted to see me born before he died. Oh. And he passed away a couple months before I was birthed. And then she went to bed, and she said she woke up in the middle of the night, and my crib was in their room, and that the man was tall and very thin. And she said she looked down from her bed to check in on me, and she just saw the shadow of a very tall and thin man leaning over my crib.
Whoa.
And like looking down at me.
See, I thought this would be a nice story, and it got so scary.
And then she
got
said,
so scary.
No, but I think that's kind of nice.
Was it like a warming presence, or was it like, I'm going to take that baby?
I think you have a baby, you're immediately going to be like, hey, help! That'd be strange if she just gave birth and was like, no, take it, spirit. Like,
spooky.
Yeah, but I feel like she's convinced, not so much convinced, but it's kind of in that mind space of I don't know if I saw it or if I was just half dreaming.
Yeah.
But that's the closest I have to a ghost story.
Okay.
I do not have anything
From
really.
a small town, there's got to be something.
Oh, we knew all the lore. For sure.
Yeah, what was it?
Oh, there was just, there was a house in a part of town that was very old, and it used to be a train station. Mm-hmm. And then there was the elementary school there, which is very old. The elementary school was built in like 1912. So back when it was a train station, and when it just became an elementary school, the train was still operating. Yeah. So a little girl got hit by a train, and then her brother killed himself.
Oh my God.
And then that house was just like the haunted house. Like everybody like knew a guy who lived there or something. Yeah. Everybody just was like, it's a spooky house. It's just a dead haunted house.
Oh man, that's so way sadder than his story.
Okay, do you
want to hear something? And then my mom had another friend. Well, actually, I killed 2 people, and they still haunt me in my dreams.
So okay, there was this undead jailbird. And there was a lot. We got like just all the dirty laundry everybody knows in small towns. So like we knew there was like serial killers and stuff, and like
Yeah, just little things like that, but never anything necessarily like. I always wanted that definitive connection.
Yeah.
You know, like that moment of like, you know, you turn around and there's like a woman in white kind of runs at you or something.
Yeah.
Victoria historically is very haunted too.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And Jack, nothing ever happened to me there. But like there's the woman in white in that golf course. You know that one?
Alana Brittany mentioned this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought you were going to say Alana Brittany like knew her.
Yeah,
Alana Brittany was good friends with her. Terrifying. So it was like a nade.
It's cool to invent a word.
From the top. It was a maid. Not a maid. What am I saying? A nurse. God. Sean, you take it.
All right, spitball to me here, Darcy.
Okay, so there was a nurse, no a maid, no.
This turns into improv. Yes, and it had a really scary mask on.
Yeah, and it was the Slipknots, and
it had the clown mask.
No, yeah, it was like a nurse got murdered, and then her body was found on the beach, and then that's the most frequent one. Is like golfers will just be like, "I'm playing a perfect game," and then they'll turn around and there'll be a woman who'll be like, and they'll be right there.
Fuck.
A lot of accounts of it, like
Jesus
fairly
Christ.
recent ones, and that one's very consistent. I knew a guy who went to like community college with a guy who was a food reviewer and also a ghost hunter.
Wow.
And he posted it all online. And then the guy I knew, I'm not going to say his name. He's a comic, but I'm not going to give him the promo. Okay. Just because it's funny to me. No, it was Shane Priestley. Shane Priestley could tell the story better than I could. But he went on a date, and he like was like, "Hey, I'm going to take a date like on the ghost hunt." And I was like, "That sounds really cool. Like that could be really fun." He was like, "Yeah, we'll see how it goes." And then apparently the ghost hunter was like trying to break them up the whole time.
Whoa.
You know, if you see this ghost, they say the relationship never works. And you know, I'm also a food reviewer, so I get free tickets to all the restaurants.
It's amazing. It's like an SNL sketch.
Fucking ghost hunter trying to steal my date. So yeah, nothing really beyond that.
Okay. I like the idea of you just not being in touch with it and ghosts trying to haunt you all the time. You're like, you know, we just can't crack that Darcy Collins guy.
That's my like. That's the way that I could still believe in it.
Yeah.
Because just being like, it's never happened to me. I ain't seen it. I would love.
I
for
want
to
it.
happen. I want it so bad.
When Oladada was on this show,
He for sure believes in ghosts.
He thinks my house is haunted.
Yeah.
He thinks everyone's house is haunted.
Like, I don't even have any confirmation that he does, but I know he believes in ghosts.
We were hanging out on my balcony and the door
Sorry,
shut. So I'm so sorry. Door shut because of the wind, and then he's like, just like, it was like full on. Where he was like, "It's haunted. Your place is haunted. Your place is haunted." And I was like, "It's not haunted. It's the wind." He's like, and then that night he texted me and he was just like, "The wind chimes. They didn't make a noise." And I was
thinking about it all night.
All right, so this is really.
It's a good point, though.
How much ghost hunting gear do you think he has in his like fanny pack that he wears on his chest?
I like the idea of a ghost being, "Let's scare the shit out of this kid. You hold the chimes. I'm gonna slam the door. He'll fuck him up." Yeah. When he was on here, I was like, "I want to be haunted." He was like, "No. Like he's like wasn't funny to him. He's like, "No. Don't say that. Don't say that." Yeah. I want it.
Yeah.
I want to believe there's more than this. You know.
Yeah. Or even that we can leave some kind of echo behind or something.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Because then that's like, because then if you can find, it's just one step closer to being like a cryptozoologist, which is what everyone wants to be, whether they admit it or not.
Is that a Ben Stiller movie?
Yeah. Yeah, win Ben Stiller's cryptozoology money.
You made a Ben Stein reference there, which is great. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's, I got them confused in my head.
Meet the Fockers 5 as he tries to conjure his forefathers.
Yeah.
His four Fockers.
Harry and the Hendersons and also the Fockers.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I mean, I don't know how far into this we get. I've attempted to contact the other world.
I had a Ouija board.
I had a grimoire, and I tried to set.
What's a grimoire?
Yeah,
It's like a book of spells that takes itself very seriously.
Whoa.
And my mom had one in her library because she's kind of like an old hippy dippy lady, and I was like, I'm gonna fuck with this. And then there was one on how to be a werewolf, and I did it, and nothing happened.
You're just so hairy.
Debatable,
puberty of me. Yeah, I'm pretty hairy. But when
it worked halfway.
Yeah.
when the full moon comes up, I'm just like, can't stop eating red meat.
Didn't work though.
Didn't work though. I'm a skeptic.
But yeah, no, I tried some spells when I was a younger man, and nothing happened. It kind of made me cold and hard and cynical in my early 20s, and then now I'm kind of at a point where I'm like softened enough up that I'm like, I think I can admit that I think it's cool.
Maybe you did a cynicism spell.
Yeah. It's like
This one's gonna turn you into a dick. And I was like, sweet, I want to have sex so bad. And then,
You did an abstinence spell. All right, guys. Anything else coming up? This is coming out this week. Do you have anything else coming up? Any shows?
I will be. Oh fuck, nah.
It's okay. What's your Instagram?
My Instagram is at Darcy Collins. I think.
Okay.
My Instagram's a lot funnier than my Twitter. Nobody seems to like my Twitter. Like Twitter's at Collins.
Twitter's hard that way. It's not
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
It doesn't. The amount of love it gets isn't representative of the quality of tweet. I find.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Sean.
At Seanald_McDonald.
Okay.
I don't really mess with Twitter.
Okay, but
Yeah.
you do have an album coming out at some point on 604.
I do, and I have that.
I produced it. It's very good. One member of the band, Fion, was in the crowd.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's great. You also called out
great.
an ex-girlfriend from the stage, which is one of my favorite parts.
I do, and it is cemented on an album forever. That is.
No,
Yeah.
never forget. Okay, guys, thanks for coming on. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Comedy Here Often podcast. I've been your host, Kevvy. Next week on the show, we have Chris Griffin and Dave Monhedge.